You recognize this? It's called a guillotine paper trimmer. The problem with this is it's big, it's bulky, and it's a little dangerous to use. Fortunately, since the popularity of scrapbooking and paper crafting, there's now a lot of smaller, portable, safer paper trimmers out on the marketplace to choose from. I thought I'd put together a little video showing you how to use one of these new paper trimmers and point out some tips to get the best results when you do use one of these. So if you give me a minute to move this monster out of the way and readjust my camera so we can take a closer look. When it comes to paper trimmers, there's quite a variety of choices to choose from and also a wide range in prices. This first model I'm going to show you is probably the least expensive. I actually have several of these and I use them as a backup in case I have a student who comes to class and forgets to bring theirs. It's lightweight, so it's easy to just to throw in a bag and take it with you. And like I mentioned, it's inexpensive, so if it gets broken or misplaced, it's not that big of a deal just to replace it with another one. However, the problem I have with this particular model is that I find the numbers on here very difficult, if not impossible, for me to read, especially up here on this paper guide here. So the way I remedied that is I've just taken a Sharpie marker, or you can use any kind of permanent marker, and I marked directly on my paper guide, my paper trimmer here, on the most frequently used sizes. And so for me, it's much easier for me to find this mark on here than it is to find it on these little grooves. So if you have that same problem, it's one tip that you can use maybe to remedy it. Now the second model that I have, as you can see, is just a smaller version of the large guillotine cutter. This is a small version. This is lightweight, so it's easy to take with you. It's excellent for taking to a crop because this is great for trimming photographs or small pieces of paper or cardstock. And you're not going to, take your finger off when you use it. However, it's very limited on the size that it can cut. This model is the model that I use most frequently. It's made by Fiskars. We actually sell it in the Stampin' Up! Catalog, or you can find a similar model at the craft store. I like it because for me the measurements are very easy to read, it's lightweight, and it's fairly inexpensive, so it answers all my needs. Now to use this, you're going to simply open up the paper guide here, which is stored underneath, and you can cut up paper or cardstock up to 12 inches by 12 inches. And depending on the weight of your paper or your cardstock, you can cut up to 5 pieces at a time. Now to use this, you're going to lift up this plastic guide here and slide your cardstock underneath. And then depending on where you want to make your cut, let's say you want to make it at 6 inches, you're going to find that 6-inch mark along this paper guide at the top and line up your edge of your cardstock with that number. And you want to make sure that you have it flush up against the top here. In other words, don't try and make your paper cut by lining it up with one of these lines down here, because what's going to happen is when you go to make your cut, your paper is going to shift and you're not going to get a straight line. So make sure that you have it lined up at the top here so it's flush against the top, and then use a little bit of pressure with your hand to hold the paper in place when you make your cut. And this is probably the most important tip. When you go to make your paper cut, move your blade in only one direction. I sometimes find people will cut it in one direction and then they'll pull the blade back. You don't want to do that, because what it's going to do is it's going to leave a fuzzy edge on your paper or your cardstock. If you do happen to do that, one way you can remedy it is by using a sanding block and just kind of sand off those little fuzzies. Over time, you'll notice that you will start to get a little ragged edge when you cut your cardstock, and that means it's time for you to change your blade. These are really easy to change. On this plastic paper guide, there's an opening down here that's a little bit wider, so you're just going to slide your blade down there and it's just going to pop out, and you can replace that easily. So you want to make sure that you change your blade frequently so you get the most nicest, cleanest cuts on there. Okay, so now that we're talking about the blade itself, let's take a closer look. I'm going to hold it up to the camera so you can see it. On this plastic guide here, you'll notice there's a little arrow on each side, and why that's important is because it shows you the exact position of the blade. And one way you can use this feature to your advantage is, let's say you want to cut the center out of of a piece of cardstock. In other words, you don't want your cut to go all the way to the edge. So you're going to take that arrow, and let's say you want your cut 2 inches from the edge of your paper, and you're going to use this measurement along here on your plastic guide, and you're going to line that arrow so it's pointing directly at the 2, and let's say you want a 2-inch cut, so you're going to pull it down to the 4-inch mark, lift it up and turn it, and then you're going to line your arrow up with that last cut that you made, and pull it down again. And then you just keep doing that. You keep turning your paper. I'll line it up here. Make sure my arrow is lining up with my cut. Make my 2-inch cut. Lift it up again. Line it up with my 4-inch mark. Cut it down to 2 inches. And as you can see, well, I didn't do a very good job because I'm on camera here, but it's going to cut the center out of your paper. It's a feature a lot of people don't realize that they have with this type of paper trimmer. It's kind of neat. Okay, we're also another feature that I like on this particular paper trimmer is that it has a lot of your regular measurements already out here for you. In other words, the most frequently cut sizes, like business card size, which is on here, which is 2 inches by 3.5 inches. Your 3 standard size of photographs, which is 3 inches by 5 inches, 4 by 6, and 5 by 7. It also has marked out on here your size for your standard card front, which is 4 1/4 inches by 5.5 inches. The way you use that particular feature is, let's say you want to make, you know, a piece of cardstock that you need a piece of cardstock that's a business card size. So you don't even have to think about, you know, what size is a business card. You just simply use this mark that's already made for you here. You don't even have to do any thinking. And you make your first cut, you turn it, and you line it up with the other mark at that size, and cut it again. And there you go. You've got a business card piece of cardstock, and you didn't even have to think about it. All the work is done for you. It's all mapped out here for you on the platform. And one last feature that this particular trimmer can do is that it can score your cardstock for you. The paper trimmer comes with a scoring blade, and it just simply fits down here on this opening, like just like the blade. Now you can move the blade out of place when you use it, or you can take the blade off altogether if it's going to be in your way. But you're just going to drop that score blade down here, and line depending on where you want your score mark at, and you're going to score it. Now when you use this, don't push too hard, because I found that if you push the score blade too hard, you actually end up cutting through your card stock or your paper. So just light pressure, and you move your blade, and as you can see, you've got a perfectly scored piece of cardstock. Okay, lastly, we want to talk about keeping your paper trimmer clean, because like with any craft tool, you want to keep it clean. It will last longer, and you'll also get the best results. And I find the best thing to do is just use simply a slightly damp cloth with maybe some mild soap on it to clean the platform of your paper trimmer. You don't want to get your blade here wet, because although I think it's supposed to be stainless steel, I have found that it rusts. And what's a bummer is when you go to cut your cardstock and you leave a big rust mark with your blade. So if you get if you get adhesive built up on your blade, it's just easy to replace the blade, because they're inexpensive enough, and you can do that. If you do get adhesive built up on the platform here, which I've had happen to me, whatever you do, don't use an adhesive remover like Goo Gone or fingernail polish remover, because those are excellent for taking adhesive off your scissors, but not so great on this. Believe me, I've had personal experience. I used some adhesive remover to clean some adhesive off my platform here, and it worked a little too well. It ended up taking off some of my lines and some of my measurements on here. So just use a slightly damp cloth. You can even use like a baby wipe to clean it, and keep it clean, nice and clean, and then let it dry between cleaning so that you don't get your cardstock or your paper wet. Well, that about wraps it up. If you have a tip to share on using paper trimmers, I'd love to hear them. Please leave your comments on my blog, michellesrubberroom.com, and thanks for watching.